Hi, my name is Daniel, and in this video I'll go through how you can actually install the IRT component and what kind of different installations and options you must consider when doing a integration or installation of it. So we have the manual, you can find a link to it here, and in here we have section 4. Obviously this may change, and here we describe the procedure for doing the installation. So the first thing we want to do, or we could consider, is if we want to do an agent deployment and deploy this configuration on the PO system. So this is really useful if you want to do an end-to-end testing of messages on your PI system. Then you can actually add this component that will make enable us a lot faster to fetch user data and metadata about the testing in a way that is a lot simpler and faster. So, well, this may not be. You can consider whether or not you want to do this step, and just skip to the next one about running the application. You may want to create the user. So, in normal way, you may want to create a user, but I guess most test scenarios for just a PI or process orchestration system, you don't really need to create a separate user. You can actually use your own user. That should be plenty if you have access to develop and run test messages on it. So right now I'll just show you the full complete installation, and then you can, once you want to do this, you can scale down and just do the steps that makes sense for you. So first we want to deploy this SCA, and we got the SCA here, or we can find it here. We have the SCA. We'll download it, install it with whatever tool we're using, NetWeaver Developer Studio, CTS Plus, some whatever is used in your landscape. Then we will go in on our SAP system, and we will go to the user information here, and then I will create a new user. Let me just switch it up like this, and then we got the manual here. That makes it a lot easier. We will create a user with these parameters, and the easiest is actually just to use the import functionality. So you can say import, and we'll call this agent user 2 and 3, just because we already have installed it. And we need to give it these roles. So now we have created it. We will go to our IRT. So we have created IRT agent user 3. We will modify it, set a password. And that is actually it. So now we have created, we should also change it to technical user. Let's see if, because then we don't need to change password on it, and that's a benefit. So we need to change the password, apply a password, or we could also have created the user the normal way, create user, assign the different roles for it. Then we must ensure secure our application, and do that in NetWeaver Administrator. Single service definition, and here we will go to, so there's a lot of service here called IRT. So we have 3 services, there may be more, and what you will then do is actually, as it says here, go into the configuration. So you want to create a new one, and then you want to, in the security tab, you want to ensure it's enabled for HTTP and it has username and password authentication. And yeah, HTTPS is not supported. though I guess when you have set the system up as HTTPS, it should also work. Then we wanna, so now that was all the things you wanted to do on the PI system. Then all the other things is actually what you need to do on the local system. So the system comes with a built-in H2 database, which is a simple SQL database that runs within the Java framework. So you don't need to install other databases. Though if you want to use it for productive cases and stuff like that, you probably want to install some of these, install one of these 4 databases. And if you have other, let us know. We'll try to figure that one out and see what we can support also. MSQL is also in the list, not up here. So you will download the Java files, and then you would, so I have downloaded the file, and then we can, there's a couple of different ways we can run it. We can create a bat file, or we can just simply double click here and run it. Though in some cases, if it's not running and you're getting problems, it's the best approach is to just go into type command, then you'll get this application up, and then you'll just cd to the place where you download the file. You would then type java run IRT 2.3, and this will start the full application. It takes a few seconds to start up, like 30 seconds, something like that, depending on the computer memory, CPU, and stuff like that. And there's some different commands you can configure when doing this. So, and obviously if you're doing different database, you need to specify this. So normally I would just create a bat file where I'll put in these commands, and that way I can just run the bat file and access these things. And for productive case in Windows, you probably want to have some kind of a Windows startup that handles these things. So once it is up and running, you can just see it here, how long the time it took to start up. Then you can click the link. And it says nothing has been configured, which is good because we're starting out from scratch. So we can leave all of this alone for now. User management, you can create new users if you want to. For the free versions, you don't have that option, but for the licensed version, you can create multiple users just by clicking add. Then you can set up some clustering. I guess that's a little more advanced feature. You can, if you request a trial license, you will just load it here, and then you would upload it to the application, and you'd be able to run it in that way. Then we got agents, and this is where you're actually entering configuration about how to access the different systems we have. So there's a separate video about how you can actually configure cloud integration agents, but it's basically the same. So we'll create our system, username, IRT agent user 3 we created. HTTP, we have a host name of it, that is this one. Just the host name. And we must set this default test system. At least one of the systems you have should be the default test system, because that would be used for mapping that specific type case for it. If we're using the B2B splitter, we need to specify it here, but you can first do that after everything else has been configured. So now we have created it, and let's just do the tests and see everything works. So we can see that we have the directory access working. This JMS part is not really working, and this is what we just want to fix now. So we have this GMS integration, and GMS is in our case the same. And this is just add 4 to the port number you have down here, unless you have mapped it to some other port. But normally it's 50,004, the P4 port. We can also use VS polling, so if you're unable to get the GMS setting working, you can use this one. So we have added it. Let's run the test configuration. So now we can see with this we're able to test that it's able to create a connection to the system, download the messages through this GMS connection. So this is a really good way to ensure that everything works as we expect it to do. So now we have actually done all the configuration that we need for this to work. If we have added a new system, so we'll just create a new system, TPO for our test system. Just we'll just be using the same since we don't have more. So now we have created a TPO system. Then we can add these mappings between systems. So that means if we have DPO and TPO, then we can, if we have a system that's called something like ERPD on this system, we can specify it here as ERPT. That way, once we're downloading messages from TPO, they would be automatically translated to these other fields. So in these, the normal syntax is party question service system, but we also have the option of specifying things with stars. And we can also do naming of namespace interface / namespace. So if we have any namespaces that would change between the two systems, we can also do it with these. There, we got it. So that was all the different configurations that we wanted to do normal ways. For user management, you can actually have a look in the manual about how you're creating users, what they can do with these different roles. So what are the different roles you want to add to users? So most users will probably just need an IRT operator, and you can create a super user that can do specific things, create user management and stuff like that. And you can just create users that don't have access to do any changes, but can run tests and check results and see what's actually going on with these things. So that was all for configuration.